I lost 20 pounds in 6 months with 9 boring habits, and they worked because they were boring. Before this, I've been chasing the latest diets, the hyper-specific biological secrets, spent $27,000 on weight loss, and yet stayed stuck in a cycle of wins, burnout, inconsistency, then regain, all trending up and up as I got older. But even after dropping the shiny stuff for the boring work, I couldn't make it stick. I'd keep falling off or it felt too slow. It was only when I applied a specific sequence to these boring habits that everything finally clicked. I've now tested this not just on myself, but across my clients the past 9 years, and we can use the same 9 habits to go from overfat to fit in 6 months without endless exercise or choking down tasteless foods. The 9 habits map to what I call the weight loss hierarchy of needs. You're probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The core idea is simple. Human needs all of its 5 levels to feel fulfilled. What I've found is that weight loss maps one-on-one to Maslow's pyramid, which dictates the exact sequence in which you have to add these habits. At the base of this pyramid, basic needs like food, water, and shelter map directly to your biology fundamentals. And this is exactly where I was failing for years. I kept falling into one of 2 traps. First was the kitchen sink approach. Keto, carnivore, meal replacements, anything that would overhaul my entire life at once. Doing more must mean losing more weight, right? But this is 99% effort. And not only is that unsustainable, it's actually unnecessary. Second is the micro-optimization approach. This is obsessing over food sequencing, choking down apple cider vinegar, or stressing over hyper-specific rules like not drinking water with your meals. These are even worse because they're a 1% effort approach that yields maybe 1% results, and they completely distract you from the real habits that actually move the needle. To lock in this base biology level, the habits you choose must pass one strict test. Does my plan fit my real schedule, not my perfect week? And can I easily see myself doing it every single day, 5 years from now? That instantly eliminates the kitchen sink method, which hardly ever fits anyone's real schedule, and the micro-optimizations, which barely produce any results. What we actually need is a flexible middle ground that creates the holy grail of sustainable change, the Pareto principle. Just 20% of the right effort brings 80% of results. That middle ground is portioning, but the mistake most people make is to turn it into a kitchen sink approach. Here's how to actually keep it flexible. You track your calories toward a mild 15% deficit, and you commit to only portioning the food you already eat. That means no new recipes, no cutting out carbs, or banning your favorite foods or sweets. And yes, tracking calories is boring, but the freedom to keep eating the exact foods you love is the exciting win that makes this stick. This foundational habit hits the sweet spot of losing fat while preventing your body from feeling restricted, so it doesn't slam the brakes on your metabolism and fat loss. After you finish this video, grab the calorie calculator linked in the description below to find the exact calorie target you need to aim for. But even with this, after 3 weeks of calorie debt accumulation, meeting your calorie target starts to feel harder. The urge to eat gets louder. You're hungrier between meals, and that pantry you've been ignoring is suddenly calling your name. This is where most people make the age-old mistake. They think, I just need to try harder. So they white knuckle, crash, and give up. You aren't being weak here. You're ignoring your body's alarm. Your body is sending you hunger signals, but hunger isn't always what it seems. Sometimes it's biological, your body genuinely needs fuel or nutrients, but other times it's psychological. Stress, boredom, or temptation dressed up as hunger. The reason this distinction matters is that the way you solve each one is completely different. And if you try to solve the biological need with willpower, your body will lower your metabolism and it will win. Every time. This is why we need to handle the biological side first, which maps to the second level of the hierarchy, regulation. There are 4 habits here that reassure your body it's safe. The first one surprises most people. When you first start getting dehydrated, your body signals it as hunger, not thirst. So you eat. And unless that food has high water content like watermelon, you still feel unsatisfied and keep eating more. Only when dehydration becomes severe does your body finally signal thirst. If you have ever felt dissatisfied after a meal and then drank water and the urge disappeared, that was a speed run of the cycle. The fix is simple. Keep a 2-liter bottle handy if you're a woman, 3 liters if you're a man, and take gulps whenever you pause to think. The second habit tackles both physical hunger and temptation at the same time. Research has shown that when your protein needs are satisfied, your brain's reward response to food cues changes. Temptations become less compelling. Plus, your body burns more calories digesting protein than any other macronutrient. It's the ultimate cheat code. After this video, grab the lean protein cheat sheet linked in the description below and keep these foods stacked at home and in your bag. The third habit is based on neuroscience research into what happens when you move through space. As you walk, your eyes naturally engage with what's called optic flow. Objects move from the center to the periphery of your vision. This has been shown to reduce activity in the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for anxiety and stress. In other words, walking outside deprocesses the stress of your day better than almost anything else. If it's cold, pacing indoors still helps. And if an hour feels like too much, just add 1,000 steps more than your previous week until you reach about 6,500 steps a day. The fourth habit is the one most people skip, and it's the most expensive mistake on this list. Research has found that ignoring it causes 24% increase in hunger, and it also reduces your metabolic burn by 5 to 10%. This is sleep. If 8 hours feels like a leap, start with a 1-hour screen-free wind-down walk so you fall asleep more easily, then add just 15 minutes more each week until you get there. But how do you stick to these habits when life inevitably throws a boulder on your perfect week? Most people nail the first stretch. You're hitting your calorie target and nailing your water intake. You feel invincible. But then Thursday rolls around. You work late. You're mentally fried, physically exhausted. In that moment of pure friction, the fast food delivery app on your phone feels like a lifeline. So the boring habits go right out the window. Then the same thing happens the next day. And before you know it, the habits have vanished. This is exactly what the third level of the hierarchy is built to solve. In Maslow's pyramid, this is the need for belonging. And for weight loss, it maps directly to your environment. The goal here is simple. You manipulate your environment so that sticking to your habits becomes the absolute laziest, most frictionless choice available. To do this, you need a food system built on 2 safety nets. The first is batching. You can batch at the meal level, like spending an hour Sunday prepping your lunches and dinners for the entire week so they're ready to heat and eat. Or if you prefer fresh food, batch at the ingredient level. Do your mise en place ahead of time. Chop your veggies, portion your protein, and store them in the fridge so that when you're dead tired, you just dump them in a pan and assemble a meal in minutes. Second is emergency backup. When batch cooking fails, which it will, you need a stash of grab-and-go defaults. Ideally, this includes a lean protein and something that hits the flavor or texture you tend to crave most. Keep these in small, pre-packaged, single-serving portions similar to packaged convenience foods in Japan. Keep them frozen or tucked away in your pantry, so when that stressful Thursday night hits, your path to least resistance is still a choice that keeps you on track. The habit so far will get you through the first 2 to 3 months, and some of you may even reach your goal. But you won't stay there permanently without the next 2 levels. Weight loss is a frustratingly non-linear process. The scale will stall even when you do everything perfectly, and it's impossible to be flawless forever. When failure hits or when you cave and eat pizza, the script starts. You tell yourself, I ruined the day. I'll just start fresh on Monday. But Monday slips into next month, and that slide continues until a sudden red alert. Your favorite pants no longer buttoning, a stark warning from your doctor, or the guilt of another New Year's resolution forces you to start the whole process over again. We repeat this exhausting cycle because we're completely blind to the invisible narrative running the show. In Maslow's hierarchy, this is self-esteem, and for weight loss, it maps directly to mental scripts. The silent stories playing in your head the second things get hard. The secret to rewriting these stories is realizing you only have 1 to 3 of them operating like sleeper agents in your brain. And to disarm a sleeper agent, you just have to spot it and reprogram it. Here's how you do that. Whenever you feel the urge to quit or you give in to temptation, briefly jot down the exact verbatim dialogue that was in your head before, during, and after the incident. Then, at the end of the week, review your notes. You'll see one dominating pattern that shows up the most. Write down why you think it's happening and pick one small, simple change to prevent it next week. Treat this like a detached experiment. It is perfectly fine if you see no tangible progress for weeks or even months. As long as you stick to this practice, you'll eventually rewrite the script and the boring habits will finally lock into place. But right when you're finally nailing all 8 habits, your brain is secretly waiting to throw a massive tantrum to pull you back to square one. Has this happened to you? You're super consistent, and then out of nowhere, you get hit with an overwhelming urge to go back to your old comfort foods and drop your routine entirely. Not a small craving, a literal pull. Psychologists call this an extinction burst, a documented phenomenon where a dying behavior temporarily spikes in frequency and intensity right before it finally disappears forever. It's your brain's last-ditch effort to keep you exactly who you used to be, so it keeps getting its old reward. Why does this happen? Well, when I ask people what they plan to do once they reach their goal weight, they list all these bold moves. Hiking more, going to the beach, joining a rec league. But when I ask what they're doing now, the answer is usually nothing. Their daily habits might be changing, but their life is still entirely confined to their old identity. As humans, we have a desperate psychological need for our actions to match our identity. If you're still living your old life, that extinction burst will easily pull you back because deep down, your brain still believes you are the old you. To beat this, you have to use that exact same psychological need to your advantage. You have to start scheduling those goal weight activities every single week, right now, before you have even reached your goal. Go join your local hiking group, schedule a beach day this weekend, sign up for that bachata class. This is how you unlock the pinnacle of Maslow's pyramid, self-actualization, which maps directly to your identity. At this level, keeping the weight off is no longer about the habits you do. It's simply a reflection of who you are. But as I mentioned, weight loss is naturally nonlinear. In fact, it's completely normal for your weight loss to get stuck every 8 to 16 weeks. And the only way out is to change what you're doing at that specific stage. So how do you know what to change and when? You can do it in 2 ways. One, if you want my help shortcutting through all the trial and error to nailing exactly what to do at each stage as quickly as possible, then learn more about my weight loss program in the description and comments below. Or if you want to DIY it, then you don't want to ignore this video, where I break down every stage of fat loss and the only 1 to 2 things you need to do at each one. Because the tactics that work in month 1 are the exact reason most people stall in month 3. So you don't want to miss the complete step-by-step breakdown here. And always remember, you can do it.